Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of this Troy Bilt snowblower series of videos. On the first part, we replaced the carburetor and got the engine to run, and we are changing the oil. And on this part, what you guys have to look forward to is, I think the first thing we're going to do is work on this pull start. It's kind of sloppy there, not really tight, if you know what I mean. And a big part of this video is going to be flipping it up on its bucket and see what's going on underneath, because right now the transmission does not shift. It is all locked up. The transmission is jammed. It doesn't really move, or at least not easily. So, what do you say we get to pulling this pull start off? If you'll excuse my mess, I have too many projects going on at once. I have 2 snowblowers here, I have an air compressor, and I have a couple lawnmowers, so yeah, just too much stuff and not enough room. Why don't we start by pulling this all the way out like this, and we will... Why don't we, let's see, maybe right there like that. We'll jam it. And the good thing about this mess is that all the tools I need are right here. Why don't we snip this off? Alright, pull this out, and we will give this one more wind. Like that. The recoil is rarely used, especially with electric start. If this was, if it had no electric start, or the electric start didn't work, then this would be used a lot more, but as it stands right now, it really does not get used all that much. Alright, let's knot this off. Got me a pliers. Alright, I'm also going to put some light machine oil in here on the spindle. And hopefully that'll work its way in there and lube it up. Seems like there's something else going on with this. Yeah, something else going on with this. What do you want to do? Take this off? Alright, so this piece moves to make those tongs come out and catch the starter cup. Watch everything go flying out. It's pretty rusty, so this piece in here of the spring is supposed to catch on this this half circle here on the housing, and this is not broken or anything like this. It could be This is just very rusted, so I'm gonna put some light machine oil on the spring and gonna put it back together and see. All right, let's see if I can get this thing back together. Oh, that just came apart. Don't you hate when that happens? I got the spring all coiled back up and put back in there, which was kind of a pain, but it's back in there. So I think this time I'm going to try putting the housing back on top of this rather than turning this upside down. Or what do you say, 6 winds maybe? I will say that after that spring came out of there and it unwound, I oiled it all up while I was coiling it back up, and so it's very well lubricated at this point. And it actually feels a lot better. It was pretty rusted, especially on the outside. You can see when you pull it out far, it doesn't really want to come back. That's because the spring in there is kind of taking a set to it. It's rusted. It doesn't really slide along itself all that easily anymore. I got the recoil back on the machine and it's not bad. At least it's not flopping all over the place like it used to be. It's only slightly limp now instead of all the way limp down to the floor. $10mm metric. Or is it? No. So the engine is metric, but the frame is standard. Let me go get some standard. I think it's a 3/8. Alright, let's just try and shift this transmission and see what happens. Well, it shifts. It's just not easy. But I'm going to spray some penetrating oil into some of these areas and let that do its thing. Let that soak in. Hopefully that'll free up a little bit, and once it does, I'll wipe some of that oil off. While we're waiting for that stuff to do its thing, I'm going to put white lithium grease on all of these gears. Alright, let's see how this is doing. It's doing pretty well. It's a lot freer than it used to be. That's an annoying sound. That annoying sound is coming from up here. There is a cotter pin in here with this cable. I don't know why that's there, but I'm going to take it out and see what happens. I just pulled it out with the pliers and it seems to be fine. Seems to be better, actually. Oh yeah, that's much better. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray some of this Silcoline chain lube on some of the bushings and stuff like that so I get some good penetration in there. Don't want to do too much. You don't want to do too much because I don't think I explained how these transmissions work on this video. This is the friction ring right here, and that friction ring contacts this metal plate. When you pull the handle, this plate moves, it swings up and contacts that rubber friction disc, and this is driven by the engine. The belt here is attached to the engine pulley, and so that's what makes the wheels turn. So this friction is in contact with that, and through friction it just drives the wheels. Now, if there is oil or something on that, then this disc starts to slip, and you are not going to get self-propel out of this machine if that happens. So this ring, this friction ring, rubber friction ring, and this disc have to be perfectly clean in order for it to work. And the way you get different speeds is the engine is spinning one way, and when this disc is spinning, it spins faster on the outside than on the inside. So the closer this friction disc is to the outside, the faster it's going to spin. So this is equivalent to 6th gear right now because it's towards the outside of the ring. And as you get closer and closer and closer to the inside, this disc and the wheel spin slower and slower because the inside of the disc is rotating less often than the outside. And you get reversed by going across the center and onto the other side, and then it's going to spin backwards because as the disc spins, it's spinning one way, so it's spinning down this way, so it's going to spin this way, and then on this side it's going to spin the opposite, this disc the opposite way. That spins real nice now. So I think at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe off all of that penetrating oil and apply some of that chain lube. Actually, I think I'm going to do a spray lithium grease on, can you see what I'm talking about? There. I'm going to do a spray lithium grease on this bushing and this spring in here. So this spring in here, this bushing, and this one at the top here. Just a little bit will do you. Whoa, that's a lot. And well, we're cleaning this anyway, but I want to keep it off the friction disc. Not bad, not bad. So this is what I use for cleaning clutch discs and brake rotors and stuff like that. Alright, there we go. That is clean. Alright, yeah, so this spins good, the transmission shifts nicely, and everything is all lubed up. So it's time to button this back up. We're going to use some good stuff, full synthetic 5W30. Oh, perfect. right at the H mark. Belts look pretty good. Let's get this cover back on. We're going to adjust the skids so that they are at the proper height. Right now this thing, the scraper, is riding on the ground, and that's not right. The skids aren't even touching. So I'm going to put this piece of tile under here, which is about a 5/16 inch thick tile. Might be more like a quarter, but somewhere in that range. So that's about the right height that I want the skid at. And then I am going to loosen the, actually I meant the scraper, not the skid. The skids are what I am going to adjust right now. And so while this scraper is about 5/16 inch off the ground, I am going to loosen these skids and make them touch. So the skids right now, with that 5/16 inch piece of tile underneath, I can almost get 2 fingers underneath the skid. So these really, I don't think we're doing all that much. And I want to angle the skids just slightly up. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just slide a piece of wood, a shim, right underneath the very front of that skid, just so it's angled up just slightly. And I'm going to tighten it back down, making sure that's on the ground. Alright, let me go do the other side. I have a nice 1/4 inch or so underneath of here. Unfortunately, since these skids were maladjusted for so long, this bar has seemed to have incurred damage here. It has obviously hit a number of sidewalk edges, especially on the edges here. So that will probably be need to be adjusted, or actually probably replaced in the future. While I'm down here, I think I'm just going to spray some lithium grease into some of these bushings, and then what do you say? You want to give it another cold start? I put just a little bit of fresh gas in it, and hopefully that's enough to get it to run. So let's do a cold start and test the transmission and auger and everything else. And with that, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this Troy Bilt 2410 snowblower. And if you like these videos, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.